All right, so today's weather lesson is going to be on weather instruments. So, you guys have been going on whatever website it is that you've chosen to look at as far as weather, and you've been writing down what the weather is like that day, and not just the temperature, hopefully, but some other aspects of the weather as well. So, let's break down what these instruments do, and that might help you understand more of what you're looking at when you are writing down the weather for every day. So let's go ahead and start with a rain gauge. So I have a couple of tools here with me. So rain gauges can look different. They don't always look just like this, but this is one type of rain gauge. They do all have the same job though. So what I could do with this rain gauge is I can stick it into the ground, and then when it rains, it tells me how much rain has fallen. So this is not a predicting tool. This tool actually tells you the aftermath of what has happened. So think about when you would use a rain gauge. So again, it's not a predicting tool. It's not going to tell you how much rain is going to fall. It's going to tell you how much rain has already fallen after a storm or after a rainfall. So how would I use that information? Well, if I were a farmer, I might, or if I had a garden, I might use that information to show me how much rain my crops have already received. And that way I don't need to water them or worry about them. Or maybe they got too much water, so I need to keep an eye on them and make sure that they don't die because they've received too much water. So rain gauge is good to let you know how much rain has already fallen. Okay, so this is one type of rain gauge. Then you have a thermometer, which I have a couple of different ones here. So this one here is a thermometer. So a thermometer, everyone knows this one already. You guys know that a thermometer tells you the temperature. Okay, so you can read temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit. We use Fahrenheit most of the time. Okay, so that's one type of thermometer that you might see. Another is the kind that you put under your tongue, right? That we use to see if we're sick. And then this also has a thermometer on it right here. So again, you can see your C and F for Celsius and Fahrenheit, and that way you can read it either way. Okay, so we have thermometers to tell us the temperature outside. All right, so those are pretty simple ones, and then they get a little bit more difficult, and they might be words that maybe we haven't really heard before. So let's go ahead and talk about a wind vane. So a wind vane, I'm going to bring this back, looks like this part up here. And some of you may have one of these, and some of you have maybe seen these before on barns or something like that. So it's usually some type of stand up on the top of the roof, and it has this arrow. Sometimes it has a rooster on it. And so what it does is when the wind blows, it blows this wind vane around, and it tells us which direction the wind is going and which direction the wind is coming from. So as it goes, it can tell us where the wind is blowing from and towards. So a wind vane tells us which direction the wind is coming from and blowing towards. Okay, and it looks just like this. All right, then we have something called an anemometer. So a big fancy word. It means something pretty simple. So an anemometer just tells you how fast the wind is blowing. So that is this guy here. So you may have seen these as well. So they're kind of cup shaped. And so what happens is when the wind blows, it catches in these cups and it spins this. And it can tell us how fast the wind's blowing. So if it's spinning slowly or if it's spinning really fast, it can give us a number, and the meteorologist can let us know how fast the wind will be blowing for that day or the next day. Well, why is that important to know how fast the wind is blowing? Well, it can determine what you wear. It can also determine if you can burn outside. So sometimes we do bonfires here. I'm sure you guys do bonfires during the summer, and your parents might have gotten alerts before that say, the wind is too high, you can't burn today. So it's really important to know what the wind speed will be for that day, on how to dress, and things that maybe you can do outside or you can't do outside. So as you guys are looking at your forecast, that's something that you'll probably see. You'll probably see wind speed, and it might give you an actual speed like 4 miles per hour, or it might just say calm. If it says calm, it means that it's so low that they don't really have a speed for it. So that's something that you might be recording, or that you might be seeing as you're looking up your weather. So you have wind speed, anemometer, and then you have a wind vane, which tells you the direction of the wind. Okay. All right. So our next one is a barometer. So a barometer looks like this. It's this middle one here. So it looks a lot like a thermometer in this case, but the numbers mean very different things. So a barometer, and I actually have another one that I can show you. It looks very similar. A barometer tells you air pressure, which we already talked about. So it can tell you if the air pressure is high or low. Well, what does that matter? Well, remember, when we talked about high and low air pressure, sometimes you get dry weather, and sometimes you get rainy weather, and sometimes you get warm weather, and sometimes you get cooler weather. So it's very important to know the air pressure outside, because that can determine, that can go along with our temperature and our wind speed, and it all fits together. So a barometer tells us air pressure. All right, and then last but not least, we have a hydrometer or hygrometer, depending on how you pronounce it. So that is this guy right here. So same thing, looks very similar, but the numbers mean something very different. So a hydrometer, and an easy way for you to remember this is that it starts with an H, tells you how much humidity is in the air. And we talked about humidity a little bit when we talked about the water cycle the other day. So remember, humidity is how much moisture is in the air, how much of that water vapor is in the air. Remember, we talked about how it makes your hair go poof, right? Because it clings to it and makes each strand have some water vapor on it, so it makes your hair nice and big and puffy. So it's important to know how much moisture is in the air. And when you are looking at your weather, it might even come up and it'll say humidity, and it'll give you a percentage. So it'll say like 25% humidity, or 13% humidity, or whatever. So it's just telling you how much percentage of the air has moisture in it. Okay, so that is your hydrometer, your humidity. All right. Okay, well, that is it for our weather instruments. Again, if you have any questions, leave a comment below, or you can message me on Google Classroom. And enjoy checking out the weather. And I hope this helps you as you are now looking at your weather, and you are documenting it as to exactly what you're looking at and what you're looking for. Okay? All right, bye.